Be prepared. Something has already shifted beneath you, and most people have not noticed yet. Pay attention to this moment, not because something is coming, because something has already arrived. There is a specific alignment occurring in your sky right now. The Sun and Black Moon Lilith are moving into direct conflict, a square, and what this means for your interior world is not metaphorical, it is structural. The part of you that has been buried, managed, exiled, and silenced is no longer willing to stay quiet. It has found the surface, and it is speaking. Most people will feel this as irritation, as restlessness, as an inexplicable sense that something is wrong, or more precisely, that something they have been calling right is no longer acceptable. This is not random, this is not mood, this is not anxiety. This is the architecture of your psyche under cosmic pressure, and what happens next depends entirely on whether you are willing to hear what is being said. Reality has already changed. You are catching up to it now. Let us be precise about what is happening. The Sun, the seat of your conscious identity, the self you present to the world, the mask you have refined across years of careful adaptation, is being directly challenged by one of the most misunderstood forces in the entire astrological canon. Black Moon Lilith, the dark feminine, the exiled archetype, the part of the psyche that was deemed too much, too raw, too honest, and therefore cast out. This is not a gentle transit. A square aspect carries the energy of friction, of forced reckoning, of two forces meeting at right angles with nowhere to redirect the tension. There is no harmonious release available here. There is only decision, and this alignment does not arrive alone. It lands inside a larger sequence of pressure building for months. Saturn and Neptune in slow, grinding dissolution, structure meeting illusion in open tension, meaning the frameworks you built your reality inside are being quietly dismantled. The stories you told yourself about who you are, why you stay, what you need, they are being tested. Many of them are failing. Simultaneously, Mars and Uranus have been generating sudden, electric, volatile energy, the kind that produces explosive realizations and abrupt departures that later reveal themselves to have been the most intelligent choices you ever made. These forces are not competing, they are cooperating, and the result is a psychological event horizon. You are being forced, not invited, forced, to confront the desires you suppressed, the truths you managed, the self you exiled in order to remain acceptable. A decision is being demanded, a confrontation, an act of radical honesty that will cost something real. Stay present. What follows requires your full attention. If you understand that we are moving through a sequence of accelerating cosmic shifts, and that each one builds on the last, subscribe now. What is decoded in this channel is not entertainment, it is preparation. Be ready before the next threshold arrives, the first signal. When the Sun squares Black Moon Lilith, the first desire that breaks free is the desire for unfiltered truth. For most people in this particular season of life, the past decade has required enormous management. Managing how you present yourself, managing your emotional reactions so that you remain likable, hireable, lovable. Managing the distance between what you actually feel and what you are willing to express in polite company. You became extraordinarily skilled at this, so skilled that at a certain point you forgot you were doing it. The mask began to feel like a face. The performance began to feel like identity. And then something, slowly, and then all at once, began to feel wrong. Not diagnosably wrong, not wrong with clear language, just a persistent, low-frequency dissonance, a sense that the conversations you are having are not the ones you actually want to have, that the agreements you are maintaining were never really agreements at all, not at the deepest level. Lilith is where you went when they told you that you were too much. She holds every truth you swallowed to preserve the relationship. Every feeling you minimized because expressing it felt too dangerous. Every desire you buried to remain acceptable. And the Sun is now in direct tension with everything she carries. This is why you feel the pull toward honesty that slightly frightens you. Not strategic transparency. The raw, irreversible kind. The kind that changes the room the moment it enters it. The desire is not new. The permission to act on it is. Silence for many people right now is becoming physically uncomfortable, not as metaphor, as lived experience. This is Lilith refusing to be managed any further, the suppressed self pressing against the interior walls of the life you constructed for it, and finding those walls thinner than they used to be. The first desire is awake. The desire to stop pretending that everything is fine when you have known for some time that it is not. The second signal deepens. At the degree Black Moon Lilith currently occupies, the Sabian symbolic system presents a precise image, a lone figure standing at the outer edge of charted territory, refusing to take another step under someone else's direction. This is the archetype of sovereignty, and it is erupting. The second suppressed desire breaking free is the desire for absolute personal autonomy. Autonomy is not lifestyle independence. Autonomy is the primal insistence on being the author of your own life, on making decisions from your own interior intelligence, rather than from the fear of other people's responses to you. Most people are not fully autonomous. They are operating inside a web of obligations and identities constructed to maintain approval. Many of those structures were built in childhood, when approval was literally survival. You needed to suppress the inconvenient parts of yourself to remain loved. And you did it so completely that those structures became invisible, began to feel like choices when they were never really choices at all. Saturn's pressure in the background of this alignment is applying direct weight to those structures, testing them, and many are failing. The codependency that felt like love is becoming suffocating. The obligation that felt like loyalty is becoming resentment. The approval you spent years maintaining is becoming a prison you can no longer convincingly call a home. Consider a dam. For years you have been reinforcing it, patching cracks, redirecting pressure before it could accumulate. This required enormous energy, and the dam has been holding, but the water behind it has never stopped rising. The Sun-Lilith square is increasing the pressure at a rate the existing structure cannot sustain. Something is going to move. The question is whether you move it consciously, on your own terms, or whether the dam breaks under its own accumulated weight and the movement happens to you rather than through you. Autonomy reclaimed deliberately is transformation. Autonomy forced by collapse is crisis. Both arrive at the same destination. The difference is entirely the cost. The second desire is awake, the desire to stop living under someone else's authority over your own interior life. The third signal is the deepest, the most confrontational, and the most important. This is where most people stop, not because they cannot hear what follows, because they can, and recognition requires response. The third suppressed desire breaking free is the desire to be whole rather than good. Black Moon Lilith represents the shadow in its most specific form, not merely the unconscious, but the actively rejected. The anger you were told made you aggressive. The ambition you were told made you selfish. The defiance you were told made you difficult. The emotional intensity you were told made you too much for the room. These were not buried because they were dangerous. They were buried because they were inconvenient to people who benefited from your compliance. And you internalized their judgment until it became your own, policing yourself on their behalf, not even requiring their presence to continue the suppression. Lilith has been carrying all of it, in the dark, patiently, faithfully, and the sun is now being forced to look directly at her. Your logical mind will tell you that integration is risky, that expressing anger will damage relationships, that asserting ambition will make people uncomfortable. Your logical mind is not wrong about the risk. It is wrong about whether the risk is still optional. The cost of continued suppression has crossed the threshold where it now exceeds the cost of honest expression. Something is being subtracted from you with every day the shadow remains exiled. Vitality, clarity, the specific creative intelligence that only emerges when you operate from the full range of your psyche rather than the approved portion of it. The call right now is not toward becoming a better version of the self the world asked for. That project is closing. The call is toward integration, toward wholeness, which means accepting the unresolved, instinctual, sometimes inconvenient reality of everything you actually are. What waits on the other side of this reckoning is something most people have not felt in years, the freedom that comes from no longer dividing yourself against yourself. The clarity that arrives when you stop maintaining two separate interior narratives, the acceptable one and the true one, and simply choose the true one. The shadow is not asking for your destruction. It is asking for your acknowledgement, asking to be seen and named, because the energy used to exile it is the same energy that could be building the life you actually want. The third desire is the deepest, the desire to stop perfecting the acceptable self and begin inhabiting the whole one. Beneath all of this friction, there is something else operating, something that does not announce itself. Jupiter, currently positioned as a hidden structural support beneath the turbulence of this moment, is the force most people overlook because it does not make noise the way Saturn does, the way Lilith does. But its position right now matters. Decisions made from authentic ground during this window are protected in ways that cannot be seen in advance. The honest conversation that feels risky is moving toward a more stable outcome than the continued silence. The boundary that feels like it will cost the relationship is actually clarifying which relationships were built on real foundation and which were built entirely on your compliance. An ancient Hermetic principle describes this precisely. The universe responds to sincerity with structural support that remains invisible until the moment of contact. You cannot see the net from above. You can only discover it by moving toward it. The support is not extended to the performance. It is extended to the authentic self in authentic motion. The chaos is real. The confrontation is real. But operating beneath all of it is a current moving toward expansion, toward the life that becomes possible when you stop spending your primary energy on maintaining the gap between who you are and who you have been performing. The hidden force is present. It is waiting for you to make the move that allows it to function on your behalf. When an authentic decision is made inside this alignment, the chain reaction that follows does not move slowly. Mars and Uranus in their current configuration generate sudden acceleration the moment genuine movement begins. What felt impossible for months becomes navigable in days. The fog, that specific mental fog making it difficult to prioritize, difficult to think clearly, difficult to identify what you actually want, begins to lift, noticeably, quickly. Then the external environment begins to reorganize around the new signal you are broadcasting. When you stop sending divided signals, when your actions begin reflecting authentic values rather than managed performance, the responses you receive from the world shift accordingly. The right conversation happens. The information arrives. The person who needed to leave, leaves. The opportunity that required your alignment appears because you are now aligned. The synchronicities following an authentic decision made under this sky are not subtle. They are the kind that make you pause, the kind that make you understand the infrastructure of your life was waiting for precisely this signal from you. For those who act, time accelerates. Months of stagnation compress into days of movement. The version of your life that was possible but unreachable becomes suddenly, undeniably available. The consequence of an authentic decision under this sky is not chaos, it is velocity. And after the long stillness of suppression, velocity will feel like what it is, liberation. Now the other path, the path of one more managed day, one more postponed decision, one more rational argument for why now is not quite the right moment. If you choose once more to silence the desires surfacing, to exile the shadow, to manage the truth back into containment, the universe does not interpret this as neutrality. It interprets it as a choice, and it responds with increasing pressure, not with patience. What was low-grade dissatisfaction becomes chronic. What was occasional resentment becomes structural. The inner voice you are suppressing grows quieter until you forget it was ever there. And the gap between who you are and who you are performing widens until crossing it feels impossible. The relationships built on your compliance will not protect you from this outcome. They were constructed around the performance, not the person. When the performance eventually cracks, and it will because no performance sustains indefinitely, those relationships will not have the architecture to hold what is real. The universe, operating through the accumulated pressure of Saturn, Lilith, Mars, and Uranus, will not stop applying force because you refuse to engage voluntarily. Pressure that is not consciously redirected does not dissolve. It accumulates, and accumulated pressure finds its own exits, through behavior, through the body, through sudden and uncontrolled versions of the exact confrontation you are offered quietly right now. The person who refuses to speak the truth will find the truth speaking itself, loudly, in circumstances they did not choose and cannot control. Indecision is a decision, delay is a direction, and the direction it moves is not toward stability. You still have agency in this moment. That is what this window is. The difference between choosing to move and being moved, between transformation on your terms and crisis on the universe's. Choose while the choice is fully yours. Return to stillness now. You are standing at a precise turning point. The architecture of this moment is measurable, symbolic, and historically consistent with every period in which individuals were called to stop performing and begin living. The shadow has surfaced. The three desires are awake. The truth is ready to be spoken. The autonomy is ready to be claimed. The wholeness is ready to be accepted. Ground yourself here, not in anxiety about the movement required, but in the recognition that the movement is already underway. The part of you that arranged these circumstances, that brought you to this exact point of pressure and potential, already knows what needs to happen. It has known for some time. The only question remaining is whether you are willing to know it out loud. The shadow is not your enemy. It is the part of you that refused to disappear when the world asked it to. Honor that. Integrate what it carried. Let it make you whole. If you want to be ready for what comes next, the transits building immediately after this alignment, the chain reactions already in motion, subscribe. What is decoded here is for people serious about understanding the forces actively shaping their lives. The next transmission is already being prepared. The turning point is now. The shadow is speaking. You already know what it is saying.